Good evening, everyone, on this lovely Monday evening here. And what are we getting it called now from the Chicago's Teachers Union? That downstate swindler. Boy, the teachers, the poor governor. How many times have you ever heard me say that? The poor governor. Uh, he's been jockeying for months, and I know one of the reasons he's been jockeying is because he's been trying to avoid dealing with the vitriol from these nasty bureaucrats in the teachers union in Chicago. And boy, are they nasty. And I've been reading their stuff all day and just laughing because I don't know that they appreciate dealing with somebody that doesn't give two rips what they think about anything. So here's one of them today. There's been several pieces come out from the Chicago Teachers Union, and here's one of them that Ryan's got up. Chicago Public Schools has gone from mayoral control to DeVore control, suggesting somehow or another that Mayor Lightfoot is all of a sudden now conceded her authority to me. It's like, oh my God, you people are sick. As the downstate swindler calls the shots, the mayor capitulates and CPS falls in line. These poor citizens of Chicago, for goodness sake, whoever wrote that, these people seriously need to be in a mental institution. What DeVore's caring about people in Chicago. I have clients in Chicago that want my help. And last time I checked, I'm licensed to practice law in the state of Illinois. And so, to the extent I have clients in Chicago, and the Chicago Teachers Union and the Chicago Public School System are trying to break the law, you're darn right I'll be there, and they can talk nasty about me all they want. I don't give two darns about it. So, I actually got a call today. Here, look at this one. Here's another one from the Teachers Union, those bureaucrats. Tom DeVore, Mayor Lightfoot, and CPS have violated the safety agreement. I got a call from a reporter today, and I about had all I can take of these Chicago news reporting agencies. They can be some of the sorriest excuses for reporters I ever met in my life. So I got a call today from some reporter asking me if I had been in contact with the mayor's office in the Chicago public school system. And I'm like, why in the hell would I be in contact with them? I don't know anybody at the mayor's office. I've never met her. I've seen pictures of her on TV, never talked to her, have no reason to talk to her, nor anyone from CPS. I don't even know who works there. Don't know anything about them. I know Mr. Martinez is the CEO because I filed a contempt petition. But then that reporter starts saying to me, well, but, asking about the restraining order I'll get to in a second. Well, there's this agreement between the Chicago Teachers Union and the Chicago Public School System, their safety agreement. And, they're going to file unfair labor practices, and they're assuredly going to win. And I'm sorry, I dressed that reporter down respectfully as I could, going, you don't even know what you're talking about. Keep your pie hole closed, and you shouldn't be out here parroting things you don't know two rips about. You didn't know anything. But then I went on to say, how dangerous it is for them to be saying that kind of stuff when they don't even know what they're talking about. Okay, the safety agreement. So let's talk about this for a second. I'm gonna give you a little backdrop. February 4th, Judge Grishow issued her ruling that says that the governor has no power, the state agencies, administrative agencies have no power, and she said that the school districts don't have any inherent authority. And so the Chicago public school system, trying to play on some perceived ambiguity in her order, is that, oh, we've got the power. We can have our own inherent authority to put our own mitigations in place. No, they didn't. The judge didn't say that. And she actually clarified it for them in a subsequent ruling that they have to follow due process of law. Yes, the Chicago public school system is not above the law, nor is the Chicago Teachers Union. So while that case was up on appeal with the appellate court and then the Supreme Court, Chicago public school system kept strong-arming the parents of the Chicago public school system, trying to say that the collective bargaining agreement was somehow or another binding on the students. And once that case came back out of the Supreme Court, my clients asked me at my first available opportunity to submit another request for a restraining order against the Chicago public school system. And we submitted that document, and it was set for hearing on Thursday at 1:30. So 3 days from now at 1:30 p.m. After that request was submitted and a hearing was set on behalf of my clients, within 2 hours, the Chicago public school system started making it known that they were going to switch to a fully mask optional district-wide for students and staff. I would humbly suggest to you that that was done because they understand and know that their collective bargaining contract cannot be used as a defense. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So here today, on Monday, the Chicago public school system made it known that they, beginning next Monday, fine, next Monday they're going fully mask optional. And the Chicago Teachers Union lost their mind and start calling me a swindler, and I'm, acting in concert with the mayor of Chicago. And it's like, I'm just laughing. But the whole thing comes, and they're talking about, we have a safety agreement. We have a safety agreement that was negotiated between the teachers union and the school district. They are the parties to that contract. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit of something about the law. You don't need to be an attorney to understand the law in this regard. You can't have a contract between the teachers and the school system that places any obligations on the children. You can't take the constitutional rights of children away from them. Here's a provision from their contract. See it right there, section 1.20, conflicts with statutes, rules, or regulations. That is in the collective bargaining agreement between the teachers union and the Chicago public school system. And I quote, "The terms of this agreement shall not apply where inconsistent with constitutional, statutory, or other legal provisions." You see that? That's in their contract. And so that provision that they tried to put in there saying that all persons, students, had to wear masks in the school is not a binding provision. It is unlawful. It's unconstitutional. Judge Grishow even clarified it, and Ryan just pulled it up. See where it says there, the TRO does provide that the legislature specified that school districts still had to cooperate with IDPH on health-related issues, and the individual policies still had to comply with existing law, i.e. providing due process to individuals. See that? So that provision in that contract of the collective bargaining agreement that the teachers union is crying about is unlawful. It's not binding on the students, and it cannot be used to force a child to wear a mask. And it does not matter that the teachers union doesn't like it. It doesn't matter that they got CPS to agree to it. It is an unenforceable provision. And I again humbly suggest to you that the Chicago public school system, and maybe even Mayor Lightfoot, know that it's an unenforceable provision. And once they were going to have to come to court on Thursday, because my clients insisted on a hearing, they changed their policy because they couldn't be coy anymore. Fine. One of my clients actually told me that the Chicago Teachers Union was so low and so nasty that they publicly disclosed my client's personal address and contact information to all of their members, and they're calling and harassing this family. Can you believe that? That is such a nasty, nasty, nasty thing to do. Why don't you folks call me, try to harass me a little bit? That doesn't bother me. You're going to bother a family with little children? There's little bitty children in that house, and you're harassing them. You people ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I'm sorry. You're not involved in this lawsuit. This lawsuit has nothing to do with you whatsoever. It's between my clients and the public school system who, again, the lawyer for the public school system has conducted himself as a gentleman. They have defended themselves honorably in court. They didn't win. That's fine. And this teachers union has been nasty and hateful and spiteful the whole way. And I'm sick of those people. I'm sick of them. Those bureaucrats in that teachers union are some of the nastiest people I've ever dealt with. So here, now they had a big meeting tonight, the teachers union at 6 o'clock, because they're furious that there's been this change. Because guess what? We're just following the law. Do you hear the teachers union saying, we'll go change the law. We'll go to the legislature and change the law because we think it needs to be. I'm okay with that. If you want to put masks on children, go change the law. That's fine. But here's what they're trying to do. This is right from their little powwow they had tonight, okay? As members of the union, this is what they're proposing. Advocate that staff keep masks on. I'm okay with that. Advocate all you want that people keep masks on. Reach out to parents about the importance of keeping a mask on. Don't have a problem with that either. Call on your administration and CPS to ensure adequate COVID testing. As long as that testing is voluntary, go for it. Volunteering to do phone banking, don't have a problem with that either. Okay? Support the testing, vaccination, outreach. Go ahead too. Here's the next one. Support contact tracing to ensure timely tracing and quarantine. I don't think so, Scooter. You're not going to start quarantining children either, because guess what? That's unlawful too. The health department deals with that. And as a general proposition, why doesn't the Teachers Union of Chicago deal with teaching? Spend a little more time educating these children versus worried about doing public health. Let the public health experts deal with the public health, okay? Here you go. Here's some other steps that CPS wants to engage in. I don't have my glasses on, so I got to get closer. Share specifics for students under 5 who are ineligible for vaccination. I don't even know what that means. Here's the next one. Communicate clear details as to how quarantining of close contacts will be maintained, including considering increasing quarantine above 5 days. You're not going to be quarantining my children that I represent because you don't have the authority, school district, to quarantine kids, and they knew it, and they know it. Teachers unions, move on. Quarantining is outside your bounds. You need to quit talking about it, right? Engage in a citywide effort to increase student vaccination. If you want to engage in all the outreach you want and try to, to promote and encourage without breaking the law, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. What's the last one? The last one there, Ryan. There's one more. One more of those slides, I think, of what they're trying to do. Here you, we already did that one. Here you go. To protect our most vulnerable, if they violate the agreement and roll back masking, CPS should implement. Again, they need to stick to teaching, not to public health and not to legal analysis, because that's not their strong point. A transparent metric that would be used to determine when universal masking would be required again. As long as I'm still here, CPS is never going back to a universal masking requirement because they don't have that authority. That is a health department issue for each child on a case-by-case basis. So the Chicago Teachers Union needs to quit talking about it and move on. Training and guidance to ensure those who continue to wear masks, listen to this, are not stigmatized and power dynamics are not abused. Are you kidding me? Read that again. Those who want to wear masks are not stigmatized. I have never in my 2 years, not one time, ever seen any citizen, including children, talked to inappropriately because they wanted to choose to wear a mask. Never. I would never do it. I would never condone it. And I would protect that child for their choice to wear that mask as diligently as the next. But have I seen children stigmatized and bantered against for not wanting to wear a mask? You're darn right I have. Why don't they write that in here in their Chicago Teachers Union little, cry in my beer type of training steps here? The stigmatism's been against the kids that don't want to wear them. They got that completely opposite. Their children are not going to be marginalized if they want to wear a mask. If any child gets taken or talked to poorly or stigmatized for choosing to wear a mask, you call me. I'll protect that child. Uh, Classroom-specific mask requirements to protect immunocompromised individuals. I'm sorry, you're not the health department either. If there are children who are immunocompromised that need protection, that's fine. The health department can deal with how that needs to be managed. But you don't get to put masks on kids. It's not the law. And if you got a problem with that, go change the law. That's really enough of that, Ryan, on those. But that's in a nutshell what I wanted to talk to you guys about as it relates to the teachers union. That not the teachers, let me be clear, not the teachers, but that bureaucracy. That's some nasty, hateful people there that I feel sorry for the parents and students of that school district that just want their kids to be educated. And I was in the suburbs over the last week. I met hundreds and hundreds of parents from the Chicago public school system that are absolutely scared to death to speak up for their children because they don't want to be subjected to that nastiness that I just showed you right there. Somebody's got to get that bull by the horns up there in Chicago, whether it's Mayor Lightfoot or the Chicago Public School Board. They need to rein that in because that's becoming completely unmanageable. And parents are scared to death to speak up because they don't want to go to school board meetings and speak up because they don't want to be attacked like my clients are being attacked, and got the teachers union bureaucrats spreading that family's name and contact information across the public spectrum, and they're being harassed at home. How despicable is that? Those folks ought to be ashamed of themselves. So is a bigger proposition that pretty much is every school district in even our initial 2 parent cases, that there's no mask right now. So we're moving forward with the cases to get to the point to where we'll get an ultimate ruling for everybody, even those that are joining the case. Our 900,000 people, they're going to be joining into this case. Procedurally, one way or another, they're all in. And we're going to move forward with getting an ultimate ruling on there not being any ability to go back in the fall to all of this again. There's school districts out here, and the governor's still thinking that they can do it, and they can't. And we're going to put that to rest. It's going to take us another couple months, but we'll get there. But my main and primary concern was getting the masks off these kids right now as fast as we could. There's still a couple of school districts. I've got a couple left. We're going to see how they choose to conduct themselves now that the Chicago public school system is changed. There's a couple smaller schools, and to the extent that they don't want to take the masks off the kids, we'll see them in court too, because that's our first and foremost priority, is to get the masks off these kids. And then we'll deal with the long-term solution. I just answered that question, Kingsley. The joinder update, we'll have an answer soon. But again, whether it's joinder or whether it's adding them in under a different procedure, all 1,000 of those people are going to be a part of this case. It's coming. All right. Another one that people keep asking me about is the public colleges, right? The public, 4-year or 2-year community colleges, etc. There's a lot of them still. I've got one, they told me today, the University of Illinois. I had talked to a nice lady today and her daughter, who's exactly the same age as my children, who this child is not going to be vaccinated. She actually had to get an exemption to be vaccinated, but she has to test every day. Every day. And they're like, can we do anything about that? I'm like, yes. These colleges are no different. These public colleges are no different than K through 12 schools. They have to follow the law too. They can't violate your children's rights. How we manage that's a little bit different, but once I get a little bit further along here with our K through 12 cases, because we got a few more coming, me and maybe a few of my colleagues are going to take this issue on with the colleges too, and do what we can to put an end to this masking, and more importantly, this vaccination of, uh, or testing every day of college students. It's just absolutely absurd that they want to continue to do these things. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, this has become, in my opinion, a completely polarized political issue. And it's, I believe it's always been that way for the most part, but it's really, that onion's been peeled back significantly in the last few months, where this is all about politics and bureaucracy and just people's opinions. And and the things we're doing to these children, and even they're not children anymore, but these young college students, it's absolutely horrific, to where, the most talented kids are going to start leaving the state. you know, Two of my children, they left and went to Missouri because they said, Dad, we're not dealing with that nonsense. And so my girls are gone. They didn't want to go to school here, and more that's going to happen. So keep watching our Facebook. We're going to be bringing the action against the colleges. It's coming real soon, and we'll see what we can do to get the vaccination and masking off your kids in the colleges too. Uh, Let me see here. I might try to take a couple questions for you guys. It's getting kind of late. Uh, Let me see here. Oh, Sean is asking how the signatures are coming. I've been kind of busy. As you guys know, last week I was across the state getting signatures. We've got 7,000 or 8,000, so we've got more than enough, and we'll get it. We'll get the signatures petition filed here real quick. Well, daycares. I mean, there's no mandate on daycares right now. So if you still got daycares that are doing it, they're doing it on their own volition, and you just have to not send your kid there anymore. Again, I answered that already, Autumn. The joinder's coming. Whether it's a joint, the judge hasn't ruled yet, but whether it's joinder or whether it's a motion to add additional parties, all 1,000 of the people that asked to join, they're all going to be in the case, and I'll update you on that here real soon. Somebody said, Michael says, asking about, when you say going after, I mean, I'm not going after any public officials right now. My job is to protect kids and businesses and parents, but to the extent public officials need to be looked into, we'll talk about that if you guys make me Attorney General. Let me see here. Okay. Let me see here. No, schools don't get to choose about what they want to do with vaccination and testing. That's the whole purpose of this case, was they don't get to choose. Well, it appears, from what I can tell, you're talking about Mayor Lightfoot. Mayor Lightfoot, for whatever it's, I mean, I'm assuming she's not an unintelligent lady. She was a federal prosecutor, and she likely knows that the Chicago public school system can't continue to order masking on students. She knows that the judge ruled. She knows what the judge said, and she knew what was likely going to happen on Thursday. So to the extent that, Mayor Lightfoot was discussing that with the Chicago public school system, I don't know that they were, but to the extent they was, she knew what was going to happen. So let me see here, guys. I think we're about done. Bizarre concept now, teachers teaching. I mean, it's I mean, don't get me started on the educational system and the erosion of that. But when I read all of this stuff coming from the Chicago Teachers Union, and again, it's only from a few of the bureaucrats at the top of the list. It's, I'm in no way suggesting that any of that's indicative of the actual, line item share of the educators. I mean, then I don't know what their views are, but the views of these bureaucrats at the top, again, I was listening. They were talking about one of the schools. I was talking to some friends because, again, I don't have a full appreciation of all of the educational structure of Chicago, but I'm going to find out real soon because I'm interested. But one of the schools they were telling me about in Chicago, that 95 or 96% of the children in that school can't pass certain proficiency tests. And again, I don't know why that is, but I would say if in fact that's true, maybe the bureaucrats running the teachers union ought to try to worry about those concerns instead of worrying about public health issues. Leave the public health issues to the public health experts and get back to figuring out how we can educate those children and help them improve on those scores. Cheryl, you're right. I mean, again, when I started representing, when I took on Chicago public school system, it was merely because I had clients that hired me to represent them. If I have a client that hires me, I don't care who the defendant is. It could be President Biden. I'll sue him too. It doesn't matter to me. So the Chicago public school system was merely a defendant in the case my clients wanted me to protect them. And I'll stand in front of a Mack truck for my clients if I need to protect them. That's fine. But then the teachers union, when they started getting involved in this, I found it interesting how the Illinois Education Association, the Illinois Teachers Federation, the Chicago Teachers Union, how nasty and hateful these bureaucracies are. And it's like, they're involved in the education of our children. I want you to teach the children how to read, how to write, how to think, and stay out of the nasty that just is a toxic, dysfunctional environment. And I don't know the answers, you guys. I really don't. That's something that all of you need to work with and hopefully get involved in legislation to how to rein that in. But I can tell you, that is a monster of a nightmare that somebody, again, they need to get that bull by the horns because it is a freight train out of control. And I don't know necessarily how to handle it. All I know is that I'll represent my clients, and if they don't like it, I don't care. Let me see here. Well, you know what, Tricia? You need to ask your school board that. Tricia asked, what if the teachers union or teachers of Chicago walk out again? If they're going to walk out, it's probably an unlawful strike, I'm guessing, because they can't insist that an unlawful provision of a contract be enforced. But this may be the time, at some point in time, Tricia, somebody's got to teach the Chicago Teachers Union a little lesson that they need to get back to teaching and stay out of this type of stuff. And if that means right now that they're going to try to be bullies and go to a strike, the parents you're going to have to quit being quiet as parents in Chicago. I've talked again to hundreds of them over the course of the last week. And at some point in time, they're going to have the courage to stand up and to say, we've had enough of this. Is it that time right now? I don't know. But that time's going to come. Otherwise, they're going to continue to run out of control. I mean, I've been listening to this one. I don't apologize. I don't know their names, but she's the vice president of Chicago Teachers Union and is lobbying to be president because the president's going to retire. I've heard that lady speak and I've listened to her talk. She's mean. And it's like, I wouldn't want her to have any part of the educational process of my children. She's mean and she doesn't know what she's talking about for the most part. Let me see here. Just a couple more guys. Somebody, I'm not sure who that is here. It's got initials. The head of CTU is up for election in a couple of months. They're trying to go full force to keep their jobs. The head, which I'm assuming is the president, is not seeking re-election. That's what I heard. But at some point in time, somebody running that union, the members have to vote somebody in that's not as mean and nasty as this lady I've been hearing listen talk to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to advocate for certain things, but to just come out like that and just start saying things that make no sense. And I'm thinking, are you an educated, intelligent person? I would hope so if you're, you know, some kind of leadership position of a union the size of CTU. But I'm listening to this person talk and I'm like, they don't make any sense. It's just nastiness. It's almost like watching Jerry Springer. I think I'm on a Jerry Springer episode when I'm listening to this lady speak. And I'm like, for God's sake, she's in a position of leadership in the biggest teachers union in our state. That's a scary proposition. Let me see. You know, Danielle, that's an interesting conversation. You're talking about legislation for school choice. You know, there's a lot of ideas out there about, you know, the financial aspects of schools and how some kind of financial mechanism could be put in place for parents to have choice of where their children attend education. You know, those are complicated legislative and policy decisions that I believe the people of the state could find a solution to, and they should probably have those conversations. Again, all adults should have a conversation. But keep in mind what you're going to be up against, because that bureaucracy that is the public education system statewide, they're going to fight you every step of the way. And they're going to fight you every step of the way, not because your children's education is first and foremost in their priority. It's because their survival and livelihood and that whole machine which they live within is what they're going to try to protect. So you want to take that beast on, take it on. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I'm just one of 12.5 million people in this state. But that's a big conversation, that, parent choice, and let the money follow the kid and not the school district. I'm interested in listening to what people think about that. Mm-hmm. Jennifer says, how much does she get to push this crap? I don't know what you mean by that, Jennifer. She, if you're talking about this lady from the teachers union, again, I don't know if she gets paid anything. I don't understand that structure. I just know that she's mean. It doesn't, I mean, not mean like scares me. She just mean. She just talks nasty and doesn't make a whole lot of sense when she's talking. Again, I think she'd probably make a good co-host on the Jerry Springer show. I agree with you 100%, Danielle. I think putting some legislation in place to be able to recall elected officials, I think that's an excellent idea. I think it should be a high burden. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it should be something that's done easily, but I think we should have a better process in Illinois for recall of elected officials. We don't really have a whole lot right now, not to say really nothing. I think, again, it should be something that we should talk about in legislation. I think it should be actually something proposed, but it needs to be something that you just can't do on a whim. It needs to be something that requires, again, a significant effort. That way we just don't start flip-flopping elected officials in and out easily. That would not be healthy, in my opinion. Chris says, please sue CTU for defamation. I'm not suing them for defamation. That lady is just, again, she's, technically speaking, she's ignorant, is what she is. Call me a swindler all she wants. People know better, so I'm not going to sue her for anything. Just let her keep running her mouth. She's making herself look like a fool. And, I truly believe that there's a huge amount of parents in the Chicago public school system that are sleeping easier this week because they know their children are going to be able to breathe freely next week. And that's good enough for me. Whatever that lady's name is, she can say all she wants about me, because I believe that the parents will be satisfied that their children are now going to be free of this mass tyranny. I don't. Should they fire Pedro Martinez? Again, that's beyond me. I don't know anything about Mr. Martinez. I don't have an opinion of his talents as the CEO. And again, I would be reluctant. That is actually none of my business on whether or not that man should be in that position or not. The only thing that was my business is that I have clients, they had rights, and I protected them. Beyond that, again, that's a political question that I don't have any ability to understand, or nor should I. Michael talks about suing schools for harming children. Again, that's not something that I'm dealing with right now or looking into, but I've made that clear all along that I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for plaintiffs' lawyers in the future bringing civil rights violations against school districts on a grand scale. I think there's going to be a lot of lawyers sometime in the future looking for those opportunities. So just have to see how that plays out, but it's not something that I'm going to be looking at. Kevin says the Chicago Teachers Union are talking about a work stoppage if masks are not made mandatory. Well, again, that's just the way that it is. Are the parents of Chicago going to say, well, we'll allow the school district to keep breaking the law because the teachers union's a big bully? That's a conversation for the school district, but the school district can't break the law under any circumstances. The teachers union people were complaining they're going to file an unfair labor practice with the Labor Relations Board. They're going to lose that argument because, as I told you when we first started this, you can't enforce an unlawful provision in the contract. Chicago Public School System cannot enforce that provision against the students. It's unlawful, and it violates a variety of provisions of statute, and there's nothing they can do about it. Chicago Public School System can enforce it. Chicago Teachers Union just has to accept it and move on. That's what they have to do. Get back to teaching. That's what they need to do. And if they don't like that, they have a remedy. You know what that is? Go get the legislature to pass a law. Go get them to pass a law. That's all you got to do. If you can't get the legislature to pass a law, then you deal with the law that's given to you, and the law that's given to you says none of you can do any of the stuff you're trying to do. So be quiet and quit crying about it. I don't disagree with you, Trish. I've had some teachers that are friends of mine tell me that there's a lot of educators that would love nothing more than to not have to actually go in the school building and teach remote, because they can go to Florida, and they had some of them, they know their friends went to Florida and they were teaching from Florida and teaching on vacation, and they don't want to go to school and work because it's inconvenient for them. So is that some of the motive? With some, it could be. It's possible, right? But I think most of us would like to work remote if we could, never have to go to the office. So teachers any different? I don't know. Corrine wants to know how you legally weaken their power. I don't know that the parents can sue the union necessarily for their strikes and threats of strikes. That's a complicated conversation, Corrine, that really is fact specific. But if you want to know how to weaken their power, I can tell you how to weaken the teachers union power. And it is absolutely effective. That's you parents in a grand scale quit sitting at home being afraid to talk, and you go to those school board meetings and you start bringing the rain against the school board. You do that and you create a louder voice than these bureaucrats in the teachers union, and you watch what happens. You will take back control like something you've never seen. But you got to do that. Right now, the teachers union's got the bigger voice. The parents got to create, there's more of you. You got the power. You just got to wield it. You can weaken that teachers union if the parents will just participate, get involved, make sure that school board knows we're here and we don't like what's going on. Do it. See what happens. It's nice meeting you too, Vicky. I remember that. I think that ought to... Is that Chris? Chris Burkett? Hey, Chris, I read your message. I appreciate that. I'm not sure that Bobby Peyton and I have a lot in common. So I wish you guys the best of luck, and I hope that works out for you. But again, I'm sure he's a fine guy. It's just I don't think that we, I think I'm just a little bit different person than him, and doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just different. So again, I wish you the best of luck with that, brother. Okay, I think that's about it. That's a good one, Stephen. Stephen Cooper says, can anything short of a law passed by the legislature and signed by the governor require face masks in schools again? I can tell you, Stephen, that that's the only lawful way to get it done. But, let's say that OJ Bob tried to pass another executive order and scare the bejesus out of school districts again, in absence, there's a lot of things that could happen. So I can tell you, yeah, that's the lawful way. And that's exactly what we're going to continue to fight in our existing court cases to make sure that that can't happen. So, it's not a yes or no or answer there, Stephen. But yeah, if the legislature passed a law tomorrow and said that masks are required in schools during those times that there's a disaster, I think that it probably would be lawful. And, do I see that happening anytime soon? No way. These legislators have been hiding from the people of this state for 2 years. They're not going to come out of hiding right now and pass some kind of mask law. It's not going to happen. Not in an election year, I assure you. Not going to happen. Yeah, children have a right to an education, Amy. It's a constitutional right. You have an absolute constitutional right to a free public education, K through 12. Yeah, Robin, I saw that. One of the teachers, I don't remember what their name is. Let me find the name. I don't see the name here. But one of the teachers, Robin points out, said that Chicago teachers, I'm not letting kids in my classroom without a mask on. We'll see how that works out for you. Because I would hope that if the Chicago Public School has been disciplining and suspending and doing all kinds of things to kids because they wouldn't follow the rules, that if a teacher tries to do the same thing, I would expect them to be disciplined the same way. I would. Somebody, hold on a second. Somebody just sent me something. What is today? Today's the 7th. So I just got a letter. You guys, I'll post this online here in a little bit. But the president of the teachers union must have said something to the mayor. And so the mayor sent a 2-page letter back to the teachers union president about, this decision for it to go mask optional. And it looks like, I haven't read the whole thing. It's 2 pages long, what the mayor sent back to the president. but it was pretty much diplomatically saying there's nothing we can do about it, and that's just the way that it is. So I'll send it to Ryan, and you guys can take a look at it. But that's important for you guys to know what you're dealing with. It's statewide issue, but Chicago's our biggest city, so it becomes more prevalent up there. But this is a bureaucratic, nasty machine that's being dealt with, and you parents got to start playing your role, right? As citizens and as parents, you've got to get in it, because this whole dynamic that we've been talking about for the last 46 minutes, it happens every day. It's a living, breathing organism of bureaucracy that's going on every day of your lives. And when you're busy trying to raise your children and work for a living, and God forbid, have a little bit of enjoyment in life, and you're not paying attention, that thing keeps growing, and it keeps getting bigger and stronger and more pervasive. Before you know it, it's out of control. And now you got to try to rein that bear in. So that's what's going on. Okay. I don't know who this is that keeps sending these questions. The initials are VS, but whoever you are, you ask good questions, because I can tell that you're thinking about this. And what they say is the governor's lifted all of his mandates, but then he still declares an emergency in his emergency declaration. I kind of chuckle, and you're right. It's these emergency declarations that the governor's been issuing, they're a complete joke. There's no emergency anymore. There's no disaster by definition. I just don't have time to go attack his emergency declarations because I'm busy trying to, help keep these children from this emotional trauma, these masks. And trust me, there's an emotional trauma going on. I've talked to enough moms. I can feel it, and I've seen it. And I've talked to children that come up and talk to me. That's been my most important priority. But the governor's emergency declarations, they're a joke right now. They don't even make any sense. And I don't know why my colleagues won't come out and attack those things. But again, VS, whoever you are, you're 100% correct. Okay. Thanks, Connie. I appreciate that. I can't wait for you to be AG. I wouldn't be so presumptuous there. I appreciate the confidence you have, but people want to make me Attorney General of this state. I'll show you. The news, Kevin Brown, the news reporting agencies in Chicago, and there's one, maybe two up there that kind of write things okay, but most of them up there, I wouldn't even turn them on. It's like, I don't know how they get people to watch that garbage, because it's all one-sided garbage. They're not reporting anything. They're just, they're parroting what they're being told to parrot. It's like there's no integrity in any of that. It's, I'm not like former President Trump, where he'd start talking all of his stuff about, attacking the media and all. I don't play those kind of games, but I understood what the president was talking about. And I've experienced it in the last 2 years, and I'm getting a little bit less tolerant of it with the last few weeks when I've gotten calls from some of these news agencies, and I get a little bit, again, polite, but I get a little snippy with them, going, you know what, don't even go down that path with me, because you're not reporting, you're not journalists, you're just propaganda generators. Gambia says, what happens if the governor or school districts want to bring masks back this winter? Do we file suit again? No, we're not going to file suit again, because we have our lawsuits pending right now that we're going to continue with and get to a resolution long before the winter ever gets here. Okay, so that's our whole purpose of again, our existing cases right now is to deal with that before we get to school next year. Jeff Newberry asked the question, can CPS force teachers to test weekly for COVID? It's a little more complicated conversation that we're working on. I'm not going to say much when this is recording live right now because I know that they got their moles listening to what we're saying here. So that's something we're looking at, Jeff, and I'll let you know. T says they don't watch that, the Chicago media, in propaganda. When I say propaganda, what I've noticed in watching is that whatever governor says, whatever the mayor says, whatever the teachers union says, they just parrot it. They just, whatever those folks say, they write it. And they don't write the other side of the conversation, right? They write one-sided, whatever those particular agencies I just told you about, whatever they say, they parrot it out to the people of Chicago. And that's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. And it's like, they don't write the other side of the, and I'm not asking them to try to write what I would call my side of the conversation, because that would be just as irresponsible. Write both of them and let people think for themselves and decide what they think is best. What's wrong with that? Why do we have to try to manipulate people all the damn time? I don't get it. Hold on, Steph. Stephanie points something out. It was hilarious that the Cook County Health Department couldn't provide evidence to force a student to quarantine. Isn't it the Department of Health's job to keep data that would be the proof necessary to prove the need for quarantine from school to a court? If the department doesn't have enough evidence, then it must not exist. Stephanie, you're exactly right. That's why the governor, that's why the school districts, and that's why the teachers unions, Illinois Education Association, don't want due process of law to be followed, because guess what? It's not easy to quarantine a citizen or to exclude them from school. And it shouldn't be easy, because you're taking somebody's liberty interests away. And they just want to be able to do it flippantly without having to really put forth any effort, because they're trying to keep you safe. So yeah, it's hard to prove, and it should be hard to prove, and I'm okay with that. Chris says, on tonight's meeting, Chicago Teachers Union Stacy Davis Gates. That's the name of the lady that I said would be a good co-host of the Jerry Springer Show. It's grotesque that a downstate lawyer, I'm an Illinois lawyer, I'm not a downstate lawyer, my clients live in Chicago, is making choices for Black and brown parents in Chicago. What does race have to do with this? Right? What? That's right. Last time I checked, we all have rights as citizens of this country. It doesn't matter what your race is or what your sex is. As far as I'm concerned, my clients, I don't even think of, why would you even say race, lady? What a nasty person you are. It's got nothing to do with it. She argues CPS parents want universal masks. Not the CPS parents I've talked to want, but they're scared to say anything because they don't want, what's her name? Miss Gates attacking them and trying to give their phone numbers, I guess, out like they did my clients so they can get people to harass them. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Who said that? Is that Miss Herrera? She does not speak for my brown kids. It's like, I don't take offense to much, but when somebody nasty like that writes something about somehow or another, I'm trying to discriminate against, Black children or Hispanic children, that pisses me off, because they're all my children as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. Race doesn't mean anything to me like that. I'll protect every child just the same. I don't care where they're born. I don't care what color their skin is. If that child needs help, I'm there to help them. And so that Miss Gates, whatever her name, she can take a flying hike as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. Shauna says, it confuses me how people are so willing to give up their rights, especially when they had to fight so hard for equal rights. Our generation, I don't know how old you are, Shauna, I'm 52. We didn't fight that hard, right? I mean, our generations that came before us, there was a lot of fighting for rights, a little bit before my time, especially, our black communities. They fought really hard. You know what I'm saying? And I did read something that Miss Gates put out there about, the black community on how low the vaccination rate is. And that's why they needed to keep the mask. And I've been told by my friend, I have a lot of friends from the community that have told me the reason the vaccination rate is so low in the black community is because they don't trust the vaccination. Now, I don't know that to be true. I only know what my friends tell me. So they don't trust the vaccination. So that's why they're not vaccinated. But you're right. There were prior generations that fought real hard for equal rights. And again, deservedly so. But have we as a community, as a whole, as a people of our generation, have we had to fight real hard? I don't know that we have. Okay, Steph makes it. Okay, I see what you're saying. Let me say that, Steph. This disproportionately affects the most vulnerable black and brown families that don't have expendable income to seek legal counsel to protect their due process. But guess what? We had enough, and I don't know, to be honest with you. Because I don't look at that stuff. When I had 100 and something families from the Chicago public school system ask us to help them, I don't look at their race. Why would I look at their race? But to the extent that we just were successful in getting the whole school district to go fully mask optional, there was a huge benefit to those children from communities that have limited resources, whether it's a black community, whether it was a Hispanic community, or maybe it was a poor white community too, because we do have a lot of those. They have benefited significantly from all of this. So, their rights have been protected too, all of those children's rights. There's another group called Members First running against the CTU this spring, Jennifer says. That's news to my ears because Miss Gates, I believe her name was, I hope that the good people of the membership of Chicago Teachers Union don't vote her into office, because everything I've heard come out of her mouth is hate and spite. And quite honestly, she's calling me a racist, which kind of pisses me off. Debbie Proctor says, I'm looking there. Debbie, yeah, my daughter, who is a nurse in Chicago, says they don't trust it. One of my friends is a good friend. His name's John Anthony. You guys may have heard of him from 560 AM up in Chicago. He's a black man. He's one of my better friends, and he's here at my house right now. And him and I just had this conversation when I was talking to him about the low vaccination rate that Miss Gates was talking about. And he said, and he told me that, he says, Tom, he says, the black community doesn't trust these vaccinations and they're not going to take it. So, just because there's a low vaccination rate, and that doesn't mean that they want their children to wear masks. And so now that the masks are off their children, again, I hope they're pleased. And the ones that want their children to wear a mask, I hope that they continue to let their children do so. That's great. Yeah, Jeff Newberry says Gates is running for president. I heard that, and I don't know how anybody would want her to be in a position of presidency. Again, that's Jerry Springer's probably hiring. I'll say it again because that's all I hear when I hear her talking. I hear hate, nastiness, ignorance, doesn't know what she's talking about, trying to pick fights. It's kind of unfortunate. Yes, Connie. Okay. Oh, there's another lady. Daisy says CTU does not speak for my Hispanic child and family. It's good. And again, Miss Gates, her name is her name. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know that I have, my mother was one of 17 on her side. And I've got, I don't know, probably 500 to 1,000 cousins on my mother's side. Many Black cousins that I have, many Hispanic cousins that I have and have had my whole life. And she wants to try to suggest to me that I'm doing something from races. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know me at all. And it's just, to say stuff like that is completely inappropriate. She wants to run for mayor, Jennifer says. Oh, for the love of God. Thanks, Ed, for putting my sign up today and with Judge Mike McKinney. Judge Mike McKinney's the man. Fifth Appellate Court. Vote Mike McKinney. It's the only endorsement I've given so far this year. Vote for Judge McKinney. All right, it's been an hour, you guys. It's 10:30. We're all going to stay up here all night if we don't. You guys have a good evening, and I look forward to next Monday for the kids to Chicago public school system to not have to go to school with masks on. For you kids that still want to wear a mask, you wear your masks. And if anybody bothers you, you call Tom. I'll take care of it. Have a good night. Take care.